Hello, everyone. Welcome to Wrestling with Green Pinstripes. I'm your host, Kalind, and on this episode, we're going to be talking about the Monday Night Raw after WrestleMania. So strap on to your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy ride. Raw kicked off with the commissioner, Stephanie McMahon, coming out to the ring, selling that injury from the previous night's WrestleMania against Ronda Rousey when Steph tapped out Ronda's armbar. She came out with the full sling on her arm and writhing in pain, and then the fans are chanting, "You tapped out," and I know that Steph, as usual, would criticize the fans for that. And then she called out Ronda Rousey to come to the ring, and she did give some credit to Ronda Rousey for being the better performer that night. But as you could tell, it was all a ruse because you could even the fans were chanting BS, even though it's technically bullshit. But you know what I mean. So Ronda pretended to take the ruse, hugged Steph, and then after the hug, then Ronda pretty much made Steph tap out again. So yeah, I mean, it was an interesting segment, and I think this is a way to write off Stephanie from full time on Monday Night Raw, because ever since last year, Stephanie has only appeared on Raw as a part-timer, so I believe she's going to do the same thing again. So yeah, I think this is just a way to write off Stephanie full-time until the next time she comes back to television, God knows when. But yeah, it was an interesting segment, and I noticed when Steph was leaving the ring, they were chanting "na na na na, hey hey hey, goodbye," and the one thing that really got my attention was when the Raw ring announcer JoJo Offerman was saying, "Ladies and gentlemen, please offer some respect to Stephanie." I was I don't think that was really her call. I think it was more Vince saying it in her earpiece. Don't please be respectful. So yeah, I would say that that was the case. Vince said it in her earpiece, and of course the commentators of Monday Night Raw were pretty much saying this is an international audience, and and people are going to say whatever they want, but let's just keep it fun. So, yeah, that's how the opening segment went. After the commercial break, Nia Jax came out to the ring with the new Raw Women's title, although, one thing to note is that there were no side plates on the Raw Women's title, which means that either Nia Jax is not going to be champion for too long, or that side plates weren't made for her ready. Which kind of confuses me, because the people who make the belts backstage would usually have nameplates or side plates ready for the performers. Kind of confuses me over there. And after Nia Jax came out to the ring, Alexa and Mickey came out, and Alexa cut a promo saying that Nia was the bully, but that technically was a lie. And heck, even fans were chanting "asshole" to Alexa Bliss, which was the very first time that I've ever heard fans chanting "asshole" to a lady on WWE television. But then again, the word "asshole" is not exclusive to men. It could be also said to women too. And then Nia Jax pretty much told Alexa to shut up, and then afterwards Nia Jax introduced her tag partner for this standard exhibition tag match on Monday Night Raw, and it was the former NXT Women's Champion Ember Moon. So congratulations to Ember Moon, who is now called up to the main roster on Monday Night Raw, and good luck to her going forward. After the break, the tag match of Nia Jax and Ember Moon versus Alexa Bliss and Mickie James took place. Alright match. It was kind of short because of TV time on the USA Network, and plus I think they kept it short because they want to protect Ember Moon, since this is her Raw debut, and they want to keep her healthy for the rest of 2018. I mean, Ember Moon did pretty well in her debut, even though she was technically in the match in the last few minutes, because Nia Jax did most of the work, and I mean, it was still It was pretty good. I meant like not too bad. I meant like I think Ember Moon on Monday Night Raw is probably going to do well as long as the booking keeps her right, and I meant like as long as the writers know what to do with her. So I think she'll do fine. After the match, there was a backstage segment where Kurt Angle meets up with Braun Strowman and his new tag partner Nicholas, and and Braun Strowman shared the bad news that they're going to be relinquishing the tag titles, which I predicted that was going to happen. So yeah, I meant and Braun's reasoning was that Nicholas is in the fourth grade. So yeah, I meant the Raw tag titles have been devalued. But yeah, I meant I think this is the right call to relinquish the tag titles and have it vacated for a tournament. And as Nicholas said, he's gonna get these hands once he finishes school. So if Nicholas Cohn wants to become a professional wrestler, go for it. But I'd rather wait until he reaches a certain age, probably 16 or 18. Depends. He's still a little kid, so we'll see what happens. And before the commercial break they announced that No Way Jose would make his debut on Monday Night Raw after the commercial break. So let's see what happens. After the commercial break, No Way Jose comes out to the ring with his conga line. So yeah, I mean the conga line was kind of cool to see, but match itself was against a local competitor and it only lasted for less than a minute. So yeah, I meant it was an okay debut for No Way Jose. I meant not really the greatest, but I meant No Way Jose's gimmick in NXT was more like a party guy, and I don't know if it's going to translate well to the main roster, because a lot of people were comparing it to Adam Rose, and Adam Rose had a very similar gimmick 4 years ago when he debuted. And he actually did not debut on the Raw after Mania 30, but yeah, it definitely didn't do any favors continuing the party gimmick from NXT. So it's hard to tell what's going to happen going forward for No Way Jose, but I just hope that maybe he evolve his gimmick on the main roster, because that gimmick is very one-dimensional and it could go stale pretty quickly. So yeah. After that match, there was a backstage segment with Kurt Angle, Cesaro, and Sheamus, where Cesaro and Sheamus were expecting that the tag titles be handed back, but Angle said nope, that's not going to happen. Instead, they would have to earn their titles back at the greatest Royal Rumble network special in Saudi Arabia. So there will be a mini tag tournament that will take place where the winners will face the Bar for the vacant Raw tag titles in Saudi Arabia. So let's see what happens after the commercial break. After the commercial break, it was Gallows and Anderson versus the Revival in a quick match. I thought it was okay. I mean, it was pretty quick, and also it didn't help matters that the entrances was cut, and when the show came back from commercial break, the match was already in progress. So yeah, I mean, that was a pretty weird timing from the USA Network and WWE, but yeah, I meant it was an okay match, and at the end, the Revival win, and they will advance to the mini tag tournament for the Raw tag titles. So, what's going to happen to Gallows and Anderson, we will see. And in case if anyone missed it, there will be a superstar shakeup, which means that Raw stars could go to SmackDown, and SmackDown stars could go to Raw, which will be a 2-night event. I will be covering the Superstar Shakeup. I'll do a podcast about it, but I won't be reviewing those shows. I'll just be sharing my thoughts on the talents that moved brands, and I'll give my personal opinion about it. So that's how I'll do my Superstar Shakeup podcast for this coming week. And before the commercial break, they teased that Seth Rollins would come out to the ring next after the commercial break. So let's see what happens. After the commercial break, Seth Rollins comes out as the new Intercontinental Champion, and he celebrates his win as the Intercontinental Champion. And he also mentioned Grand Slam Rollins, which means that there could be a t-shirt called Grand Slam Rollins on WWEshop.com later down the road, which could be replacing Monday Night Rollins. Personally, I like the Grand Slam Rollins t-shirt slogan. I believe that's much better than Monday Night Rollins. Because he could be moved in the shakeup, and that Monday Night Rollins would be on clearance on the shop. And then, after Seth gave his a congratulatory speech of winning the IC title, then Finn Balor came out and he congratulated Seth on winning the title, and Finn teased that he would like to face Seth for a title match down the road. And then afterwards, the Miztourage came out, and he was pretty much telling the story that when the Miz lost the title to Seth at Mania, it made his wife and his newborn daughter cry, which made him cry, and of course Seth roasted him by saying it's a man, it's bravery to admit that you cried because of how his attempt to wrestle. So yeah, that was a pretty interesting moment. And then the Miz said that he's going to invoke his rematch clause at Backlash. So I mean, there was then they teased a 3-on-2 match, and then Jeff Hardy came out to even the odds to side with Seth Rollins and Finn Balor. So yeah, there's going to be a 6-man tag match later tonight with Seth, Finn, Jeff Hardy, and Miz and Miztourage. So let's see what happens. After the commercial break is Mandy Rose versus Sasha Banks. Mandy Rose did not get an entrance. Sasha Banks did. And before the match started, Bayley came out and was pretty much standing at ringside, probably to counter Absolution. And the one thing that I did note of that was that the crowd of the Raw After Mania crowd was chanting, "Hey, Bayley." And then they were singing, "You Want to Be My Girl," which I thought that was pretty surprising, because it actually used to be a frequent occurrence when Bayley was on NXT and the early part of her main roster run. But then since joining the main roster, she has cooled off significantly. So yeah, it was definitely pretty interesting, and it brought back a good memory of what made Bayley so unique on NXT. So yeah, let's see what happens. And I know the match went to commercial break, but before the commercial break, Cole teased about the Superstar shakeup, where that Absolution could break up, and that seems to be the case. So let's see what happens after the commercial break. After the commercial break, Mandy Rose and Sasha Banks still continued wrestling throughout the match, and the only difference between before and after the commercial break is that Bayley played a big role in this one, because once the two Mandy Rose and Sasha Banks were outside of the ring, Mandy Rose pushed Bayley, and Bayley was going to punch Mandy Rose, but ended up punching Sasha Banks by accident. And the one thing that I got confused by was that the referee saw that happen. I was like, why did he not call for a disqualification? He could have just rang the bell, DQ'd it, and that was it. But the match continued, and because Sasha was interrupted by Bayley's presence, Sasha quickly lost the match to Mandy Rose, and Bayley was left in a bit of a disbelief over what happened. So Bayley quickly left ringside. And after the match, there was a segment featuring Paige. She got the microphone to speak about what happened these past 4 months. And during the segment, Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville left the ring and went backstage, so to leave Paige with her moment on the microphone. And she announced that she's going to be retiring from in-ring competition, and which is pretty sad, because her last televised match was on Christmas Day on Monday Night Raw this past few months ago. And her last ever match was in Long Island, New York, on a live event. And yeah, it's pretty sad. At the age of 25, she has forced to retire due to neck injuries. And she was like pretty much thanking Daniel Bryan, because Daniel Bryan 2 years ago had to retire due to concussions, and 2 years later, now he's back in the ring, and he's going to be full-time wrestling again. So I'm at like a Paige thanked Bryan because of him. She has hope that maybe one day she could be cleared to return to the ring in the future. But there's a difference between concussions and neck injury, and due to the fact that Paige has scoliosis for her whole life, it might be near impossible that she would be cleared to return. And then she also thanked Edge, because Edge had to retire from neck injuries in 2011, and Edge was pretty much like a T telling her that there is life outside of wrestling, and Paige teased that she will have to do another role outside of in-ring competition due to the fact that WWE will not clear her to return to the ring. And she thanked the fans for everything, and she said that 4 years ago that she debuted on the main roster on Monday Night Raw in New Orleans, and 4 years later, she's saying goodbye as an in-ring competitor in New Orleans on the Raw after Mania. So yeah, it all came full circle. And it was also pretty sad too, because she's 25 and she had to force to retire due to neck injuries, and it's pretty sad. And before she left the ring, she left her T-shirt in the that she had hanging around her waist. She left that T-shirt in the ring, symbolizing that her in-ring career is pretty much done. And then she left the ring a little emotional, because that was a pretty emotional segment for her, because I could tell there were a few times where she stopped talking because she's trying to hold herself together. So yeah, it was definitely an emotional moment for that, and let's see what happens going forward. And I hope everything goes well with her life, because I know that before she returned to Monday Night Raw in November, she had a pretty rough year. That's all I could say. So I just hope that her life gets better after retirement from in-ring competition. That's all I could say. After the commercial break, there was a segment with Elias playing the guitar, and of course he does his usual cheap heat and whatnot, and playing the guitar, walk with Elias and all that. And then after that, Bobby Lashley made his return to WWE, which was pretty nice to see Bobby Lashley return after a long time, because since 2007, Bobby Lashley was wrestling in TNA, or Impact Wrestling nowadays, and he's been fighting on Bellator. So, yeah, nice to see Bobby Lashley back in the WWE after a very long time, and hopefully things will be good moving forward for him on Monday Night Raw. And after that segment, there was a backstage segment with Kurt Angle and Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, who were recently fired from SmackDown. They came over to Raw as free agents, and Kurt Angle said that the tag division on Raw is full, and then he said, but I heard TNA is hiring, which definitely made me laugh a little, that after so many years, they finally acknowledged TNA Wrestling, which is now Impact Wrestling. The TNA acronym is No More, and what Kurt Angle said is that Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn will take place because only one can make it to Monday Night Raw, which will happen later after the commercial break or later tonight. Let's see what happens. After the commercial break, Heath Slater and Rhino came out to the ring to air their grievances on why they're not in the mini tag tournament for the Greatest Royal Rumble, and they reminded us the fact that they were the inaugural SmackDown Tag Team champions, and that Heath Slater has kids. Well, newsflash to them. They're not on SmackDown anymore, they're on Raw, so that is that. And then they issued an open challenge, and who answered the challenge? The Authors of Pain from NXT. The Authors of Pain defeated Heath Slater and Rhino in a quick match, and then after the match, they told Paul Ellering, "We don't need you here." Well, even though they didn't say it verbally, but they implied it through physical communication that they don't need Paul Ellering anymore. So, yeah, the Authors of Pain on the main roster will be without Paul Ellering. I'm not sure why, because without Paul Ellering, the Authors of Pain wouldn't have been that big of a star without him. So, yeah, it's going to be a little bit different. But if they do need a manager, I'd suggest Paul Heyman, because Paul Heyman has put over big men for so many years, and I think he would be a great manager for Authors of Pain to fill the void Paul Ellering will leave behind after NXT. And before the commercial break, they teased that Roman Reigns will come out to the ring to address why he lost last night to Brock Lesnar for the Universal Championship. After the commercial break, Roman Reigns came out to the ring very slowly, walking and with a dejected look on his face. And as you could tell, there are some stitches on his head due to Brock Lesnar being reckless and punching him in the head or near his head, and caused Roman Reigns to bleed so much on the main event of WrestleMania. And Roman Reigns is pretty much wondering why he did not win the Universal Championship, and then he was complaining how Lesnar got signed to a new deal and whatnot. And then out came Samoa Joe, where Samoa Joe was pretty much criticizing Roman Reigns for not winning the Universal Championship and pretty much called Roman Reigns a failure. And then he teased a match against Roman Reigns at Backlash. And assuming he's thinking that Roman Reigns will lose to Lesnar again at the greatest Royal Rumble in Saudi Arabia in a steel cage match. But I think it would be an interesting idea if Roman Reigns wins the Universal title at the greatest Royal Rumble in Saudi Arabia, and then he defends the Universal title against Samoa Joe at Backlash. I think that would be an excellent feud for post-WrestleMania. I think that would be an excellent feud. And after the commercial break, they're teasing the Kevin versus Sammy match because both are free agents and one has to earn a contract for Raw later after the show, commercial break. Let's see what happens. After the commercial break was the mini tag team qualifying match, which was Titus Worldwide versus the Woken ones, Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt. In case if you missed it, Matt Hardy won the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal at WrestleMania Kickoff, and Bray Wyatt was the one who assisted him in the win. So now they are a tag team together, and Bray Wyatt is a face for the first time in his career. So yeah, it was an okay match. What was funny was where they're doing a worldwide chant where Titus O'Neil did worldwide, and then Matt Hardy went delete, worldwide, delete, and then somewhere in the middle of the match where Apollo Crews did a standing moonsault or something like that. Then Matt Hardy led a wonderful chant and then started clapping and the entire arena was getting out of their seat to clap, which I thought was pretty funny. But yeah, it was an okay match, nothing too great, and Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt quickly won the match, so they will face a Revival on the Raw of the Superstar Shakeup. So let's see what happens. And before the commercial break, they finally teased that Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens will face each other for a contract for Monday Night Raw. So who will win the contract? Let's see and find out. After the commercial break was the Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn match. The one thing that I thought was interesting about this match was that before the match started, both of them made their entrances, and they had a generic nameplate during their entrance. No Raw or SmackDown nameplate, just generic, which means that they're going to be like dragging out this free agent storyline. And I mean, it was a pretty good match. I mean, like both of them put it all out, and at the end, both of them could not get back on their feet. So like the referee called it a no contest. Therefore, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn are not part of Monday Night Raw nor SmackDown. So they are still free agents as of this recording. Will they be ending up on one of the brands during the Superstar Shakeup? Well, we'll have to see. And after the match, there was a backstage segment where Jeff Hardy, Finn Balor, and Seth Rollins were walking on their way to the ring, and then Jeff Hardy saw his brother Matt, and they had an interaction with each other, and of course Bray Wyatt and Jeff had an interaction as well. So I mean, yeah, it's pretty nice to see the Hardys back together, but this could be the last time the Hardys would be together, because there could be a split up during the Superstar Shakeup. Could Matt Hardy go to SmackDown or Jeff go to SmackDown? We'll have to see. And then after that interaction, that was a funny line that Finn Balor said, "What was that all about?" So yeah, that was pretty funny. And before the commercial break, the Miz Taraj and the Miz made their entrances to the ring. So the main event of Monday Night Raw after WrestleMania is the Miz Taraj versus Seth Rollins, Finn Balor, and Jeff Hardy. So let's see what happens after the commercial break. Main event was Seth Rollins, Finn Balor, Jeff Hardy versus the Miz Taraj. It was a pretty good match. I mean, it started off a bit slow, but then somehow picked up after 2 commercial breaks, or 1. I kind of lost count, but I mean, but it felt more like a standard, dark match after a televised taping, so to send the crowd home happy. So the babyfaces won. So there's that. I will give the Raw After Mania a B+. Thought it was pretty good. Better than WrestleMania, that's for sure. But then again, the Monday Night Raws after WrestleMania are pretty good. So, and then before the closing of Raw, the commentators were shown talking about the Superstar Shakeup that would take place and what could happen going forward. So let's see about that, and I'll see you next time.